Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Guitar Souls podcast. This is episode number 83, or as we're titling it today, Snake Eyes. We'll explain.
Snake Eyes. Sorry.
That's cool. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Levi Clay, and I'm here with my wonderfully handsome good friend, Mr. Mike McLaughlin. How's it going, buddy?
Same shit, different shovels, probably the best way to put it. You know what it's like. One of those weeks where you do your best and the best doesn't do you back. I'm sure you saw on social media that I had decided yesterday, right, enough of the procrastination, enough of feeling bad for myself, enough of just not really doing anything. I've got a Saturday that I can do what I want with. I'm going to go to the Party Cannon studio. I'm going to take the stuff that I had out in the garage for the home studio to the studio, set stuff up. There's space for a cable to be running through from the wee room into the live room. So basically effectively set up like a studio. Took everything over. I'm talking computer, box of cables, monitor, an amp, speakers, speaker stands. I had to take a desk, loads of stuff, man. It took 2 full trips. Spent about 2 hours getting everything all set up, getting the computer running, brilliant, no bother. And my interface wouldn't come on. Now I had a Scarlett 2i4 2nd gen that I'd bought a couple of months back as a spare for using in the garage, but never really plugged it in because I had a loan of the M Audio from Quig. Thanks, Quig. So I thought, fuck it, I'll take it over to the studio. I can give Quig his interface back and I'll just get that set up over there. And if I need it, I'll just bring it home because it's mine anyway. So that was the plan. Went over, set it all up, as I say, plugged it in. Wasn't really working. It had come on before, showed the phantom power light, and then just wouldn't power. So I'm like, okay, I better just have a quick Google, as is anyone that's into computers, I'm sure, or specifically PCs, you'll understand the tinkerings of trying to get shit to work that should be plug and play. My luck is usually that things don't plug and play, so I have grown accustomed and comfortable in going into Device Manager and causing myself grief. Anyway, long story short, had a couple of Google searches round a few different forums, couldn't quite find anything I was looking for, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to write a little support ticket to Focusrite and ask them what they suggest. Does it need a firmware update? Is there some sort of reset protocol? Is it got a fuse inside it? Whatever, right? So, middle of typing away, and I looked over at the speaker on my right hand side where the interface was sitting, and there was smoke coming out the Kensington lock at the back. And it was roasting hot. So I did what anybody would do. I took the 2 screws out of the chassis and removed the actual amplifier, the interface module, and sure enough there was one I think it was a capacitor, I could be talking shit, certainly one component that had changed colour and clearly was the offending issue. I felt underneath the PCB for where the heat was, and it was where the 2 wee tails of that were going through the board where it was the most hot. So I was like, you're the offending article. So at the moment I am in 2 minds. I either wait for Focusrite to get back to me and see what they can do, which is probably not a lot because the interface is second hand and over 2 years old. Or once they get back to me, I say, okay, you can't do anything for me. Can you send me the service manual, please, so I can work out what the component is, the values, and I'll just change it myself.
Sure.
Or I'll get someone else to do it. Luckily, from the looks of it, it's not one of those tiny wee surface mount head of a fucking grain of rice numbers. So that's been the accumulation of my week. Some positives though, I need to be nice about it. I need to be grateful for what I've got. So I had a really shitty week. As I was telling you earlier on, I slept all the way from Monday night at 11 p.m. till Tuesday 3 p.m. Took a few days because I was just fucking run down. But the sweetheart that she is, Nancy, noticed that I was fucking not feeling well, and I was telling her how I was, and she's like, right, we're going to do a wee self-care regimen on Friday or whatever else. So Friday night I had my eyebrows waxed. I had a beautiful mint and honey face cleanser on. I had my feet bathed and rubbed down and massaged, and then I wore one of those crazy feet peel things. Have you seen these before?
I have to say I was worried when you said, and then I'm like, no, too much information, Mike, stop there.
Then I had a back sack and crack, and my gooch got waxed. No, so I got those feet peel things. I've never done any sort of skincare regimen in that respect. I moisturise sometimes, but being a fucking Neanderthal, it doesn't happen often. So I put these crazy plastic. They're like plastic shoes, socks on, right? And they've got like a liquid in them, which is some form of acid apparently. But me having big fucking feet, it was 90 minutes of me having my toes curled like this and this stupid thing, and then like trying to get round about the house. They're slippy as shit, so I put my slippers on, but they're like open back slippers, so I kept kicking them off. I felt like one of those, you know, the videos of dogs that they put the wee things on their paws and they're like walking like this. That's what I felt like, man. It was crazy. But that was nice. And then yesterday, Nancy and I had an Oishi's, which was dynamite. And played
I should
games.
throw in the information for anyone listening. That's a Japanese restaurant.
Yeah, sorry, it's a local Japanese restaurant that is fucking tremendous.
Yeah.
So I had teriyaki duck. And it was a favourite of yours.
Yeah, delicious.
So I thought rather than getting a katsu or whatever, I was going to have the teriyaki duck. And I had the katsu summer roll, I believe it is, which is like a chicken sushi. I think it's actually got like shredded roast duck on top of it, and flying fish roll, and katsu sauce. It's fucking... Oh, I pickled vegetables as well. Can't miss out the details, the finer details.
Well,
how about you, big man?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
just fucking went on a crazy tirade
I know.
and stole the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, there you go, everybody. Your weekly update of everything that went on in Mike's week with a play-by-play.
Not everything. The other things you don't want any notice of. You don't want to know.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm exhausted, as you know. For those that are listening to the show, they're listening to it. I would hope the day that we recorded it. We're recording this Sunday morning. I got up early. I plan to edit it straight after and upload it because Sundays are a long day for me now. I have to go to the boxing training, which is in Lanark, and then I have to drive all the way over to Glasgow to go to Melissa's, which, you know, none of these things are things to be sad about, but also it's going to be a long, hard day, and I'm not looking forward to getting my cunt punched in. I was going to say kicked in, but get my cunt punched in by George. So, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just playing my violin here.
You're going to relax all day. I'm going to get punched.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go to band practice. There's no relax when you play Party Cannon songs.
Yeah, no, other than that, all good. Just keeping up the work. Getting the Kiko Loureiro album is almost finished. One more track to do. And then,
yes.
As Melissa keeps saying to me, it's once you've done it, it's done. And then it's over. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'll move on to another album.
But that's how it works, because then you get paid for it and you're cracking on.
That is true.
Yeah. I did find it quite strange that yesterday I was talking to you and you were like, yeah, I'm just going to go and do some work, because often it's I should be doing work but I'm going to play the computer instead. So you must be enjoying that Kiko album.
No, it's fucking long. It's so long. His first album, I love it, but it's 13 tracks, which is long by today's standards, but it's a 15-year-old album. So I'm like, 8 tracks in, I'm like, must be almost done. And then you look at the track, you're just like, Jesus Christ, there's still another half an hour of music to do.
That's how I feel at work sometimes. You're like in the middle of doing something, you go, right, cool, it's 11 o'clock, right, cool, just crack on. Fuck, that must be 11:30 now.
Yeah.
11:03.
Yeah.
Before we move on,
sure.
Since you're trying to get it up today being Sunday the 15th, happy birthday, Peter Wall, 36 today. We love you, buddy. Thanks very much for being a supporter. Look after yourself, have fun. Hopefully you get spoiled.
I like the pressure that this adds to us now, because now we're officially we have a birthday segment. So anybody that listens to the show, if we know it's your birthday, we're obliged to shout it out now. So more pressure, we like that. You know what else is pressure though? The highest form of pressure. This show is brought to you by OMSBY Guitars. If you want to see something beautiful, head on over to OMSBY's Instagram page right now and see what they are all about. OMSBY Guitars have been at the cutting edge of guitar design innovation since Perry started the company way back in 2003. Since then, the brand has gone on to be one of the #1 brands associated with Australia and modern guitar design. Aside from having one of the most ridiculous custom shops in the market today and a dedicated team that can essentially build you anything that your heart desires, more recently the brand has gained critical acclaim for their runs of custom order guitars manufactured in Korea, shipped to Australia and then sent out through their distributor network. These guitars include incredible designs such as the Hype and the Goliath. If you head on over to OMSBY's website right now and check out the pre-order section, you can pre-order a Goliath Run 14 guitar now for under $1,200. That's an incredible price and an amazing amount of guitar for your money. So, as always, a huge thank you to our friends over at OMSBY Guitars. You guys absolutely rock. We love you very much. As I said in that little roll, please do go and follow them on Instagram. They are awesome, and we like them very much. And
if you're a guitarist and you don't follow them on Instagram, you're just doing yourself a disservice.
You're missing out.
There's like daily porn updates. That's all I've got to say on it. And I don't mean in terms of tits. Like,
we are going to
nice
start the show out today by talking about another friend of the show, another company that we're big fans of, because Rev Amplification have just launched, and this makes me sad actually because it means my amp is now outdated, but Rev Amplification have just launched the Generator Mark III series, the world's first stereo direct output with reactive load and impulse responses. Oofed.
It's crazy. There is so much technicality going on here, and as usual, Rev not doing it by half. It has to be with 2 notes.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be the best of the best.
Yeah.
On my Christmas list, I've just wrote, Dear Santa, buy me Rev things. That's what I've got. I'm not going to lie. I didn't realise there was another generator coming out until I saw the social media stuff where it was Kyle and Derek talking about it. And I think Sean Tubbs did a demo recently, and Ben Eller's got one coming out for the metal side. So that'll be interesting to hear. That's really good for them.
Yeah.
You want me to read a wee bit about this?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
You look genuinely upset that your amp is now like superseded. You shouldn't be.
I know.
You've still got a ridiculous amp, and on top of that, you've also got the torpedo in your rack, which you haven't switched on.
Don't say that out loud.
It's true though, and I'm holding you account because you've got so much cool equipment that you just don't use.
But I know why, and people will. So if you go and look at my Instagram story, I am going to upload a picture explaining why I don't use this gear, and it's basically because every now and again, I enjoy Ricky Gervais on Twitter because he constantly posts pictures of himself in the bath pulling ridiculous faces, right?
He does,
I like to take stupid pictures of myself, and just recently I realised that there's this frosted glass door with a big window on it, and if you ram your face up against it and take pictures of yourself from behind the door, you can take the most ridiculous photos of yourself where you look like an absolute maniac. And the reason I don't record music anymore is because I know that if I put out an album, that would have to be the cover to it, and that would be a bad thing. So I've decided for the safety of everyone else's eyes, I won't do that.
I think if you took a handful of photos through that in different situations and then cut them up Mosaic Styling and pieced your face together from it, that would be an actually fucking minted album cover. You've not seen these pictures yet? No, I can only imagine. You're quite a handsome man, so I can imagine how much you were contorting. But I interrupted you there. While you're talking about this amp, I'll hold some up to the screen. Cool, you do that. I think that's. Oh man, I would. That's an album cover if ever I saw one. That's Mikey trying to get his dinner. Yeah, so your bit of hair's like his ear and his face. Sorry, this is like the Ramble podcast today, isn't it? Well, this is what happens when you record going right off at 10 in the morning. But that's what happens when two friends who don't see each other very often talk shit and record it. Right, sorry, Rev Amplification. It's too early in the morning for me. I've had 2 coffees and I'm just about to crack a can of Monster. So let me have a wee sip and then I'll read this story. And this comes from Music Radar and it was only 5 days ago it was released. Bub, 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 bub. Ooh, intermission. That's a deep cut for any of our fans who know what that is. Let us know in the comments. I don't. I'm going to guess it's a Dick Show though. No. It's music. Okay. I won't spoil that one. Tell us about this amp, Mike. Yes. So, as Levi said, it's the world's first stereo direct output reactive load and impulse response guitar amplifier. So, Rev Amplification has unveiled the Generator Mark III series, 3 high-gain heads that the Canadian company says are the first stereo direct output reactive load and impulse response guitar amps. The Generator Mark III series is led by the mighty 4-channel flagship 120-watt head, which boasts Rev's 2 high-gain purple and red channels and 120 watts of power, which, by the way, is a fucking ridiculous amount of headroom. Yeah. Like, more than you need. I'm sure you came across this, Levi, and it's a lesson you need to learn for yourself. When you're younger, everybody buys 100-watt valve heads and then realises that you can't turn them up. Yeah. You buy a 50-watt head, you don't even get it to halfway and you go, shit, this is loud.
Yeah.
It just happens. It just happens. So it's definitely a learning curve. So the Mark III 100R and 100P amps, meanwhile, offer 100 watts of power in a 3-channel format, with the 100R featuring the red channel from the 120 and the 120P featuring the purple, which is pretty fucking nifty. So essentially you're getting the G3 or the G4 as your channel of choice, which is good. Each of these channels is its own all-tube independent EQ with multiple voicings and switching options to further augment your tone. And I can say, if the amplifier is more flexible than the G3 is, but obviously the only pedal I've really used, or your Generator 120, you're going to be able to get any sound you want. It's like a Mesa with more definition. It's the only way I can describe it from basic tones. But what should set the Generator Mark III CDs apart from its high-gain competitors is the onboard torpedo technology, the product of Rev's continued collaboration with Two Notes Audio Engineering. There's an embedded torpedo stereo XLR output for sending your signal direct, while the heads can be programmed by MIDI and the Two Notes feature edited via Bluetooth.
That'll do.
Upload your own virtual cabs and mics to save your cab settings to presets that can be accessed via the MIDI foot switch or the rotary dial on the front panel, which is the same as the D and the G20, which is just fucking... Don't need a screen, don't need menus, load up what you like. That's the one I want.
Yep.
It's just, it's keep it simple, stupid.
So really. I'm going to encourage everyone to go and check this app out on Rev's website. And yeah, go check out Sean Tubbs' video demoing it. We don't want to talk about it too much because then it would feel like product placement. But this was a genuine. I saw this come up and I was like, oh man, if anyone out there is in that process of looking for a new amp, this should be considered. And as
if I had the cash monies, I'd be diving on it.
So the 120 watt Mark III is priced at $3,299. Though they've not clarified whether that's Canadian or American. I would assume American, but of course Rev is a Canadian company. So, or you can pick up the 100p or the 100R at $2,700. So, in all honesty, if I was to grab one of these, I'd probably pick up the 100p. 100p.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The G3 voiced one. 4
channels is awesome, but it's also adding an extra $500 to the price. And mate, the purple channel on my G3 on my generator, I just never need more gain than that. And that not because I don't use gain. I mean, if I'm in a situation where I need a lot of gain, I just don't ever really need more than that purple channel. It's
you're right.
Yeah.
It's crazy powerful, and there's so much flexibility to it as well.
Yeah,
as well, there's just something else. Cool. Oh man, so I am lusting. I have gear lust as ever.
Yeah, spend my life with fucking gear lust.
Speaking of lust, Giza Butler and Cardi B.
Sorry, I thought we put the meme in at this point.
Oh no, that's
a very different type of lust.
No, that's forbidden. We can talk about that at the end. That's a wee light-hearted segment, I think, after what we've got to speak about just before it.
Yeah,
fair Not point. To spoil anything for the listeners. We're going to keep the intensity here, suspend you.
Yeah.
So, Black Sabbath's Giza Butler says Cardi B hit pisses him off. It's disgusting. Before we go any further into this, Levi and I had a wee bit of a chat before we came on, and I said, I don't really want to talk about this because I think it's a bit of a non-story, but Levi had much better context, so I'm going to let you read the story and then we'll talk about it.
It was purely
if you want me to read it?
It was just the idea of just cracking some jokes like that. Ultimately, that is, sometimes I see news stories. So we didn't run with a story today. Amy Lee from Evanescence did an interview recently talking about she wants to live her, she thinks it's important that people live their life in the present, deal with what's current. And I thought that was an incredible quote from somebody that only has a career based on an album that came out 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And lives off of the success of Bring Me to Life.
I think you're not... Maybe that's a misunderstanding of the language, because my understanding when people are talking about living in the present is more about enjoying what they have during that day, not worrying about what's coming in the future, not worrying about what they've done in the past. And the reason I say that is, and I forgot to actually mention this, it'd be a really good watch for you. Melissa would probably be really into it as well. It's David Letterman and Lizzo. and they're in Lizzo's house. Obviously, Letterman usually has guests on,
Yeah.
but Letterman's in her house. What a tremendous interview. It's only 40 minutes,
Yeah.
but it's really, really good. I would recommend it because the two of them have got great rapport.
Sure.
And you wouldn't think that David Letterman, who's, I think he's in his 70s, would be so... Present's probably the best word to put. Like, he's just there. But the two of them, they've got great rapport. It's really funny. It's really in-depth. You get to see a lot of Lizzo's character, and she talks about that being present kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she talks about that she finds now she's found kind of, I want to say inner peace, but she finds that she's really happy to be in a position where she doesn't have to worry about smaller things and can take in all the good that's happening. So maybe that's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, but the point I was making with the Amy Lee thing wasn't necessarily a criticism of the idea. It's more that this podcast is often just reactionary jokes. Like, we see a headline and the first thing that pops into our head makes me chuckle, so I kind of want to say it. And that's exactly how I felt about this Giza Butler thing, because it's just like immediately I want to laugh about the fact that, I mean, of course you're raging about this, Giza. You might be in your 70s. You've not seen a wet ass pussy in 40 fucking years. And that's probably being generous because you're a bass player. You know, we need to crack jokes like this. Where would life be without cracking jokes like this? Even if it is Giza Butler. So,
but we need to remember that Ben Shapiro's wife reminded him and made sure he knew that women can't get wet. That's like an STI. That's a sexual infection. You can't get that. That's the ultimate burn. The fact that he put that online himself, like, well, my wife, who's a gynecologist, actually told me. Like, you just got negged off your own wife and then grassed yourself up on the internet. There is no greater fail on earth.
Yeah, that's definitely enjoyable. So I will attempt to read this. During a conversation with Kerrang! Magazine, Black Sabbath bassist Giza Butler took aim at Cardi B's hit single Whap, branding it disgusting. So here's the quote. Wow. That's really about the fact that whatever new music comes out, it's viewed as the devil's music. I remember when Elvis Presley came out, everybody said he was Satan. And then in the 60s and 70s, he became America's national treasure. It happens with every new wave of music, like metal, obviously. The Christians were going mental when Sabbath came about. And that's when, and then when rap came about, people were up in arms about that and certain words that rappers were using. I have to say, though, Cardi B pisses me off with that Whap song. It's disgusting, but there you go. A friend of mine didn't know what the song was about, but his 10-year-old girl was singing it. I was like, what? To put it on an album, fair enough, but to put it out as a single, it's a bit much. Then again, I'm 71, bloody old goat.
At least acknowledge that he's got his own bias on it, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Obviously, it's fairly explicit. You've probably heard the radio version.
I heard it for the first time.
Douchey.
Yeah, I heard it for the first time in a car with you.
Yes.
So I totally get where Giza's coming from. On the one hand, I want to be like, not that it's classless, but just the like who stuff like this is pitched at, who's being exposed to stuff like this, and then the knock-on effect of stuff like that. But also at the same time, I like offensive and reactionary humor. So I don't listen to this. I don't listen to Whap and hear it as high art. You know, I can go into my more offensive side and go, this is really going to upset and piss people off, and for that reason, fucking banging. Well done.
Well, I've got a slightly different view on it.
Sure.
When I first heard it, as you can imagine, I spoke about this with Nancy.
Yep.
Right? So you can imagine that there'd be conflicting worldviews to start with. Right? But hear me out. So my first thought was, that's fairly obscene to be a single and to be out on public radio.
Yep.
I can understand why people would be up in arms about it, especially when Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B can be seen as role models for young women, because they're two women who've obviously got themselves quite far. Cardi B I take umbrage with in general because she's admitted to drugging and stealing from men.
Yeah.
But she also worked in the lap dancing industry, which I don't imagine there's a lot of nice men as patrons. So, no, I'm not being daft. I'm just saying the context.
He's totally not victim blaming there.
No, but what I'm saying is that I don't think you'll get the entire story.
Sure.
I think there's every chance that she's had enough hardships in her life and she's seen enough bad shit and dealt with fucking assholes. It's not an excuse. I think there's a lot of context to why people do things and the surroundings they're in. Anyway, there's only so much I can say or think well, that's terrible, or like that's maybe a bit offensive and it's sexualising children. Because then I think back to when I was about 9 or 10, and the school playground, almost every child, I'm horny, 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 horny,
Yep.
so horny. Like, we've been sexualised for years and years and years. The only difference is this is way less obscured. This is just in your face.
Yeah. So, like, when you say we've been sexualized for years, it's not binary. It's not yes or no. It's a sliding scale, and we are sliding further and further up that scale. Is what I would say. But now I'm so old that I don't care so much.
Well, not caring's probably good, but I actually think as well that this is potentially the signs of not a revolution, but a kind of change in attitudes where women are becoming more confident where they should be, and putting a message forward and saying, well, you might think that sex is taboo and that I'm not allowed pleasure or whatever else, but here's my opinion on it, deal with it. No, really, because think about it.
Not a chance in hell. Cardi B is not. That's not why this song exists.
Oh no, I'm not saying that Cardi B's woke.
Sure.
I like Megan Thee Stallion because she's fairly upfront. She's got a few songs about her feelings, and other times she's just basically like, I'm a badass bitch and I don't give a fuck. Like, deal with it. Which is cool. I like that. I've been listening to quite a lot of female rappers recently. Nancy's put me onto, obviously. Cupcake, etc. But I kind of like this, not liberation, but almost like you're all scared of strong women talking about sexual things, so we're going to make it as explicit as we want, and then that'll be that. So as long as there aren't young children thinking that's like the thing to aspire to, but more so that it's part of life that you have sex.
Sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, we wouldn't be here if our parents didn't have sex.
Sure. But that
sink that one in. Think about your parents having sex. I'm talking visceral, no lube. Someone screaming. There might even be sweat and blood.
And
toys.
Just so we both know, it was 20. Well, who knows when the edit happens, but it was about 29 minutes into this podcast where everybody turned off.
Aye, that's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've kind of been gunning towards it so far just by talking. Anyway, I think it's an interesting time for music and musicians and young women in the music industry in general, because I think there's a lot more strong female role models, for good and bad. I think this is a really explicit song, but as I say, I don't think the context was meant to be we're going to overly sexualise children.
Sure, but therein I think lies the problem, because in fact I know lies the problem, because you say strong role models, but again, like, this stuff is all totally subjective. It's like the idea of prostitution, or we were talking about Cardi B working in she was a stripper before, right?
An exotic dancer.
And let's go with exotic dancer. Sorry, I'm not politically correct.
I don't know why. I think she would probably call herself a stripper. I don't know. Whatever the correct vernacular is subjective, I think.
Yeah, sure. Ultimately, you're going to have some people. Let's just go with the broad term feminists. Here I mansplain. You're going to have some that are going to say this is a bad thing for women, and others that are going to say this is a good thing for women. You're going to say some women are capitalizing on taking the power back and doing their thing, and then you're going to have other feminists that are going to say, well, the problem here is that women are allowing themselves to be exploited and passing that message on to young people, and ultimately neither of them is right. It's ultimately things for people to continue to argue about, and Cardi B has not dealt a crushing blow, but certainly if you are of the ilk that thinks that female empowerment is not taken or is not done by talking about how you need a bucket and a mop to deal with your vaginal discharge. Discharge is that's a doctor thing, actually. Let's not go with that. I sound like Ben Shapiro. We'll walk that one back. If you need a bucket and a mop because of some Big Mac truck that was parked right in your little garage, that's you know where I'm going with this. I think we should move on, because this is the longest I've ever spoken about a vagina on a podcast.
It's probably the longest you've spoken about vagina in life. Sorry, mate. I just wanted to add, you were talking about discharge, right? Let's just call it labial detritus, just to be really horrible. Yeah, I can. I can get on board with that. Cool, right? So, since we're talking about gross things, I think we can move on very quickly to speaking about Pliny and the gross fucking injustice that seems to be happening to him at the moment. Since you look very uncomfortable talking about labias and genitals, and to be fair, it's not really your place, is it?
Exactly. I'd rather sit here and talk about purple-headed womb ferrets.
An oaken fuck weapon. To be fair, like, we can't really mansplain vaginas.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Plenty. Fucking plenty. Twice in 2 bastard years this guy has had, oh, wait a minute, there's my song being taken by someone with somehow no real repercussions. And I suppose the thing I wanted to point out here is it's shit that it's happened, but I love how he's dealt with it. I think he's very, very clever and very laid back in the way that he's went with these things. So let's take a wee dive back to last year, and we will talk about, I believe it was his song Selenium Forest, and it was essentially just rapped over by a guy.
Yeah.
I've clicked the link off, sorry, I'm just getting up now. So this was, actually the guy was called like Lil Steam or something, like Lil Skies, Name in the Sand, right? And that was last year this came out. It's had 15 million views, 31st of January in 2019. So nearly 2 years, 15 million views. And this literally is just Selenium Forest by Pliny, with I think a couple of trap beats over the top of it, and this guy rapping. Now, my understanding is this wasn't given the credit at the time at all. It's still, if you looked at the music in this video, where obviously you get the DMCA strikes and stuff coming up, it still says Name in the Sand by Lil Skies. So WMG on behalf of Atlantic Records have basically claimed this, which is pretty fucking shit.
Well, the label wouldn't know, you know. When you have a record deal or a publishing deal and you write material, you in your contract with your label, it's going to stipulate, because it's the same when I'm writing books. Like, my publisher isn't going through every sentence and checking for plagiarism. You know, I'm acknowledging when I sign my contract that when I give you stuff to release, that I created it and that I own it. So, yeah.
Okay. So, alright, cool. So Little Sky's actually on the hook then.
Yeah.
Well, fuck both parties, because I think there is genuinely, I think that's a failing in the system then. Sure. Because that's, as far as I see it, it's not due process. You can't be, I don't mean that as in someone should listen to it and make sure that no other songs or whatever else like sound the same. But there's a difference between sampling something and it becoming fair use because you've done something different with it, transformed it, and just playing the same thing, which we talk about. It comes back to this fucking laws again. It's just you and I being lawyers and talking about copyright strike and copyright in general. Anyway, fuck Lil Skies, not interested in that. But the number of people I saw repost the Doja Cat EMA 2020 Say So song live performance was incredible. At one point, I actually thought one of my friends was playing guitar, Sonia Nusselder from Cobra Spell. Right. I believe she played in a band called Burning Witches as well. But it's not, it's actually Laurie Basilio, sorry. Yeah. Saying that wrong. Anyway, this was 4 days ago, came on, and a good 30 seconds of the song is just plenty. Yeah. Again, like, not even, oh, that sounds similar. Like, it is the same song. The difference, I think, is the key, maybe. But every part of it, the orchestration, the instrumentation, the rhythm, the harmonisation, all of it stolen. So I'm going to read this quickly about, or from Guitar World, and then you and I can talk about it, because I'm rambling again. Plenty issues statement in response to pop star Doja Cat lifting his music for her MTV EMA performance. This was 4 days ago, reported by Guitar World. The Australian virtuoso isn't happy, but admits to finding it absolutely hilarious that something I wrote 4 years ago in my bedroom would find its way here. So that's, as I was saying, I like his mindset about things. Yeah. I'm not going to read through other than Pliny's statement. Yeah. So he put a thing up on Instagram, which has now had 29,000 likes. In case you missed it, Doja Cat's recent performance of Say So for MTV borrowed a few elements from my song Handmade Cities for its new live arrangement. I think it's an awesome performance. Shout out to homie Larry Basilio, sick playing. And more than anything, I find it absolutely hilarious that something I wrote 4 years ago in my bedroom would find its way here. The lack of prior communication about it or proper credit upon release is disappointing, but not particularly surprising in a sector of the industry that is usually more interested in clout than creativity. And then in brackets he's put, it's being sorted now, but would have been cooler a million views ago. If you read this far and are new to my music, you can pre-order my upcoming album from the link in my bio. In the words of I am Darian Javin, you've never heard me produce/arrange anything like this before.
Yeah. You want?
I think that's a really good take.
It is. Do you want my hot take on this, though?
Yes.
It's all cool. Like, so based on previous relationships, dating people that work in music publishing, like high up in music publishing, this is the stuff that you pray happens. Because if you own publishing to something and somebody else uses it without a license, they could have come to you and licensed the music and paid X, but when they've used it without permission, they don't have a choice, right? It's not they pay X. At that point, they pay literally whatever you tell them they're paying because they can't have they can't not have the license. You know what I mean? Like publishers live for stuff like this. So this will have been considerably more lucrative for him than if they had approached him prior.
But beforehand?
Yeah. Plus, it's been a massive PR thing for him as well. You know, I think that he's come out on top of this. Not just a massive PR thing for him where people are talking about him, but where he comes across as a really cool guy as well. So, like, this is just like win, win, win. Because the other way that this would have gone down is a year ago, they would have contacted him, said, can we use some of your track? We'll give you $3,000. And he would have gone, yeah, cool. And that would have been the fucking end of it. This is a win, 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 win. I'm really happy for him. And
it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of like the conversation we had last episode where we were talking about, it was the, not Mastodon, which tracks with there was that sample of the riff, not a sample of the riff, but the riff was played in that song that is by that band that I don't like. How are you confused by this?
Because you haven't given any information.
So last episode, we were talking about a song where at the end of it, there was a tiny little bit of a riff that was, it wasn't a Deftones riff. Was it a Deftones riff?
Yes, sorry, we were talking about Bring Me the Horizon.
Bring Me the Horizon, there we go.
And they stole Swerve City.
Yes.
Down, 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 down.
Sure.
It's not stolen, but it's very similar.
And we talked about this idea of how much is too much, and like is it a tip of the hat if you play a riff by someone or quote a musical idea from someone. I thought it was a really cool discussion. There was some really cool stuff going on in the comments section about that, and I think that this is more of an example of that. This is considerably more egregious, but the point I think I'm trying to make here is the same one that I was making there, which is when shit like this happens, the problem that often arises is fans getting annoyed on behalf of the artists. I feel that what Pliny has done here has tried to de-escalate the situation and tell his fans, guys, it's all right, calm down. It's being sorted, you know?
Yeah. I think it's top of that.
All right for him.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sure. Just to totally agree with what you're saying. If you look at the comment section for these things, none of it's like, this is out of order and outrage. It's people just saying, by the way, sounds remarkable like Pliny's Handmade Cities, or that part is Pliny's Handmade Cities. Yeah. I don't know if this has been confirmed or not, but I heard rumours that the drummer who worked with Pliny is the drummer who helped the arrangement for Doja Cat.
Right.
So I don't know if he has any legal standpoint to lift that music and use it, recontextualise it. But whether that's true or not, I don't know. But no, I agree with you totally. I think it's shit that it's happened to Pliny. Like, conceptually, it's just a bit disrespectful that it's happened twice, but you're also bang on in that it's now going to do him the world of good. I totally agree with you. And the way he handled it, again, perfect diplomacy, the right level of, well, actually, this is mine, but bigger picture, it's pretty fucking cool that you would know who I am and have done this with it. And as you say, the even bigger one is he can just go, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah.
And Doja Cat's doing well for herself, so there's no chance he's not going to make well from it.
If this was $3,000 prior to getting a license, like this could easily be $20,000 now. Because Doja Cat's over a barrel.
The other cool thing for me is the fact that it's like Larry Basilio.
Yes. Who was someone that we'd also recently been talking about. So
exactly. It's leaning into like the other side of Pliny, basically just being like a wee nod to her, like, fucking hell, you killed it on that track. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And again, credit where credit's due. It's fucking good. Like, she's playing a black Xyphos, I think, in the video. And the other guitarist is playing a fucking Razorback.
Blech.
I mean, you've got like a really classy, dark, cool-looking instrument and then a Razorback. Come on. Anyway, that's just...
Yeah, Dimebag is often cited as one of the best metal guitarists of all time. But apparently, it's time for Music Radar to do their annual Who's the Best Metal Guitarist of 2020. And I thought that I could read through this list and see who Mike thinks on this list is the best metal guitarist of 2020.
Yes, I haven't read this. I've clicked onto the link. I haven't scrolled down. All I've seen so far is who's the best metal guitarist of 2020. Get your horns up for your favourite shredder of 2020. Right, this is Music Radar. I think before we go any further, Brandon Ellis is going to get a shout out right away. Black Dahlia Murder.
Okay.
Because credit where credit's due, the guy's got style. He's like kind of... Have you heard any Brandon stuff?
No.
No? He's like almost traditional shredder in the sense big,
Sure.
wide vibrato, screaming punches, great tone, really, really good articulation. Really, like, almost like a kind of... You can tell he went through the Shrapnel DVDs and all that kind of stuff and kind of formed his own side of it, playing the Black Dahlia stuff. So, I think Brandon Ellis is going to be on there.
Okay. Any other names
Kiko?
that you'd throw on here?
Kiko.
Okay.
Lurio. Andy James. I think Andy'd be on there.
Would be a good shout. Yeah, would be a good shout.
See, the real problem here I've got is the fact that it's Music Radar. So they could be talking about metal in the context that it's Jim Root and Mick Thompson are going to get a shout yet again. I think Zoltan Bathory probably will get a shout. Again, just because Five Finger Death Punch. James Hetfield will probably get a shout. Dave Mustaine will probably get a shout. Kirk Hammett.
Yeah, it's been a weird year, hasn't it? It's 2020, so like not all that much music has been happening either. So it's hard for me to even look back and go, well, what great music have we had in 2020? I'm not listening to a shit ton of metal as it is anymore. The stuff I listen to is all older stuff anyway. So I couldn't even tell you if there's been any amazing guitar players that have come out in 2020. And that, to be fair, they've also not said the best new metal guitarist, and I don't mean the genre. I mean, having
just
recently
said,
come out.
Yeah, best for the year. That's right. I mean, if we're talking about the best of this year, not new artists, but just releases, I'm definitely sticking with Defeated Sanity. I think Lil absolutely fucking killed it. The fact that he played all the drums and all the guitars in one take, and it's so tight, blows my mind. Is Dave Davidson maybe on that list? Because he's got a new band, which is like a weird, dark, atmospheric, black metal prog band.
Right. So now I'm going to give you the opportunity to go down and read the names on this list for us.
You're going to upset me here, aren't you? I can tell. You've got a big shit-eating grin in your face.
I've got a massive shit-eating grin on my face. And the thing I love most about this is there's one name on here, who I know, who he's not even listed as being in a band. It just stands out as like the odd name out on this list, not a hope in fucking hell of winning. So, Mike, give us this list. Who's on this list?
Right, so these are it's a vote? Okay, right, let's zoom in. So we've got...
Yeah, the voting closes on the 28th of November. So if you guys watching the show now or listening to the show now want to influence this, you want to have your voices heard, and you can go and vote for one of these names as being the best metal guitarist of 2020. Right,
let's have a wee read down. So we've got Willie Adler and Mark Morton of Lamb of God. Great players.
Yeah, I
wouldn't say they're the best metal guitarists.
I've never been a Lamb of God fan in the sense that I've never sat and listened to Lamb of God. But when I'm okay, so second shout out of the week. Whenever I'm at the boxing, when Lamb of God comes on one of George's playlists, it just immediately hits me as this is the perfect music for this situation.
Oh, it's super aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's like the right pace. That's the kind of thing that could get you pumped up, but you wouldn't be totally run out in minutes.
Yeah, I always feel that I want to be listening to Meshuggah in a situation like that, but actually Lamb of God seems to be top tier.
Oh, I think that would be too slow and a bit too rhythmically intricate.
Yeah.
Whereas Lamb of God get away with wee bits, but it's not the focus.
Yeah.
Recommendation for you: Ashes of the Wake and Sacrament. Two Lamb of God albums worth a listen, especially Ashes of the Wake, man. There's actually a Chris Poland solo on that album.
Okay.
And I believe it actually is Ashes of the Wake, the title track.
Let's throw a super quick aside in here. The album that you recommended last week was
Sordid Pink.
Sordid Pink. I listened to it as soon as the episode finished. I went upstairs, put some PlayStation on, and put it on.
You sent me a screenshot.
Yeah, musically, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But lyrically, and I never thought that I'd ever say this, right? But the more I spend time around Melissa, who has a master's in songwriting, the one
She's still
criticism
not Vatican, though.
no, the one thing she always points out when she's listening to a song is, just lyrically it's garbage. Like they're not saying anything, and that started to permeate my mind now. And when I was listening to this album, I was like, man, I really like the music in this, but why is the singer just relentlessly going, yeah, I'm a killer and I'm on the run and I kill people and you need to catch me because I'm a killer. And I'm just like, oh God, I suddenly cringe at some of the lyrics that I've written in the past where you feel like you're just going through the motions of writing the things people expect to hear. So that the only criticism is lyrically. I thought it was not really saying anything, fair. But musically super cool.
Completely fair. I mean, it is quite a few years old.
Yeah.
And I agree with your point, not just because it came from Melissa, but in regards to lyrics, it's really hard to find something that's lyrically, like, actually takes you somewhere, actually tells you a story and drags you along. Like something like Last Goodbye by Jeff Buckley. Brilliant because it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. Things
like that. John Mayer's really good at it. Stop This Train, when he's singing about basically facing mortality and talking to his parents.
Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Things that are like visceral, that take you into the moment.
Yeah, well,
are really good.
You think they've really poured over the lyrics and put a lot of thought into making every line perfect for saying what it is they want to say, versus, like, I've written songs where it's like, cool, I need a song about sex.
Aye,
this is a metal band or rock, a dirty 80s rock band. This song needs to be about sex, and you look back and you're like, we're just writing lyrics just to make people, like, lyrics that got vetoed for old Hellcat demos were things like, I'm glad I vetoed this one actually. She's not the kind of girl that you take home for dinner, but she's the kind of girl that will let you come in her. That's not really saying much, is it?
If you're going to talk about, like, something I was listening to recently that I really enjoyed the lyrics of, but it's pretty fucking visceral, is a Date with the Devil by Mutoid Man.
Right.
And it's all about him shagging Satan's daughter, and it's fucking tremendous. So I had a date with the devil. I'd say she had a date with me. I couldn't wait to get on her level and let my dirty mind run free, climb all over Satan's daughter. Nothing's ever made me harder. Right, and then the second verse is, I had a date with the devil. I'm feeling good, can't you tell? I smell like shit, I'm looking dishevelled. I had the walk of shame from hell. And then it's, came inside of Satan's daughter, not much doubt who's the father. Brilliant. Dead succinct, but brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that because it takes you into, like, a different dimension.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. I really
There's
like
some
that.
Wonderful wordplay in that.
It's great. It's so
walk
good.
Of
and
shame
the riffs
from
in that.
hell.
I know. But it's like, it's perfect, isn't it? It just works. For anybody that's not gave Hormones by Mutoid Man, the album. Mutoid Man are the band. Hormones is the album. Go and listen to it. It's brilliant. I'm not really a big post-rock, fuzzy, doom kind of guy, but I saw them live, and for a three-piece, they were the loudest and tightest and best sounding band I can think of. Tremendous. The guitar tones were unbelievable, using, like, loads of effects, loads of fuzz, loads of octavers. Just something else, man. Something else. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to read this list because I keep going way in tangents.
That was super me.
I'm not doing any better. I just keep going with you. Right, so Willie Adler, Mark Morton, honourable mention, not the best metal guitarist of 2020. Stephen Carpenter and Chino Marino, no, more than that one in a minute. Joe Duplantier, Christian Andrew from Gojira. I really like Gojira, but again, wouldn't say they're the best guitarists. They've got some cool rhythmic ideas and cool tone, melodic choices, but again, wouldn't say they're the best metal guitarist. In my mind, the best metal guitarist is somebody that can write riffs and probably do a bit of soloing as well. Rob Flint, no, wasn't even the best guitarist in the 90s. Matt Heafy and Corey Bulio, both pretty good and accomplished guitarists. Again, wouldn't say the best of 2020. They were one of the best when they came out, and they were getting touted as being the new Metallica, and that's not me being like an asshole or whatever. Just my opinion. Andy James so far wins a list.
Yeah, there's a
without
contender.
looking at anybody else. You know what I mean? Without looking at anybody else, you're like, cool, I know Andy can play like fuck. Al Joseph, this is the one you've said is listed with no band. Who does Al Joseph play for?
He did have a band that he was playing with who I know were on tour with Angel Vivaldi as the support act for that.
Oh, all right. So they must have been pretty good then.
And if I recall, they had to pull out because there was no money. Everyone was broke. I could be wrong on this, but I'm sure I remember even Angel Vivaldi sent his band home and ended up doing most of the tour, the second part of the tour, just with backing tracks.
Oh man, credit where credit's due. That must have been a really hard call to make, but that's the best thing it could have done for everybody involved. There's no point in these people being out losing money on the road. There's no point in him losing money on the road. There's also no point in letting the fans down, which is good. Well done to him. Clint Lowry and John Connolly of Sevendust. I don't think Sevendust have been relevant since 2003, so why we're talking about 17 years later, I don't know. Greg McIntosh and Aaron Adey of Paradise Lost. That's a band I've never listened to,
right?
But I often see the name of. I'm going to go and give them a check out, actually. I've been meaning to do so for years. Josh Middleton and Alex Bailey. Contender for up there with Andy James. Josh, at least. Josh can shred like fuck. He can play some ridiculous rhythm stuff. He's tight as fuck and he does vocals at the same time.
Right.
Credit where credit's due. Reba Myers and Dominic Landalina for Code Orange. Also minted. Great players. Code Orange isn't really my cuppa in terms of I've got into the band, but I can see I could get into it, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And then we've got Diamond Rowe and Josh Four from Tetrarch, who I do not know.
I don't believe he was christened Diamond Rowe.
I don't believe you were christened Levi Clay.
I wasn't christened, but that is my best name.
Okay, big show off.
Yeah.
Right, so
what a list.
No.
What a list.
No,
I'm just gonna vote now. I'm
three musicians.
Just gonna give Andy a wee vote.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Well done, Andy. The other thing I have to say from looking at the list is best metal guitarist. Why is everybody on there apart from two names a duo? Like, what if you're in a band where one guitarist is amazing, the other guitarist is terrible?
See, you know what? I've clicked to vote. Sorry to change your point, right? But then more about, and it's who's the best rock guitarist of 2020 and what is the best new signature guitar?
Oh, mate, if you go on their homepage, they've got an entire section of the, the public vote things. They've got best rock guitarist, best metal guitarist, best new signature guitar, best new signature guitar, best new electric guitar, best new guitarist, best blues guitarist, best prog guitarist,
plectrum.
Best acoustic guitarist. Who do you think is on the best new guitarist list?
I don't even want to look, if I'm totally honest. They probably have the guys for Sevendust on that one and all. Fucking assholes.
It's the best new guitarist that you've discovered this year. Interestingly, though, in the it's best new guitarist of 2020, but the URL for it says best new guitarist of 2019. So yeah, Omar Apollo, Sam Blakelock, Gabrielle Sear, I don't know. Budikovitz, Melanie Faye, Adam Iron-Sykes. Apparently he's in a band called Pigs. Kazuki Asogi and Ruben Wan. I don't know who any of these people are. I'm getting old. No. That's our sign to move on. Yes.
So let's talk about our good close friends and people that we obviously respect and love in the industry, pioneers, the titans of the industry, I would say. Ticketmaster fined £1.25 million for losing UK customers' payment card details. It took the company more than 2 months to respond to reports of fraud from customers who had used the website. 2 months is pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
Ticketmaster's been fined $1.25 million for losing more than 1 million British customers' payment card details in a data breach in 2018. At the time, the company admitted personal information and card details belonging to 40,000 customers were stolen by hackers, but the true impact has been revealed to be much higher by the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO. Good on the ICO going in and going, your figures sound a bit fucking shitty, let's see what's going on here. So according to the ICO, the data breach, which included names, payment card numbers, expiry dates and CVV numbers, for anybody that doesn't know what that means, is essentially they have all the information they need to make payments with your card, potentially affected 9.4 million of the company's customers, including 1.5 million in the UK. Now let's take a wee look at that, right? So we've got 9.4 million, right? 9.40000. Right, so that's 9.4 million. And they said it was 40,000, so we're going to divide that by 40,000. So they underestimated by 235 times. So it was much bigger than they expected. That's quite a gross difference in my mind. It's not like a miscalculation. That is, in my mind, fraudulently reporting figures or not doing your due diligence to look into it. I don't believe that a company can go, well, it must only be 40,000 when the number is so vastly different. That's insane in my mind. Insane. So the data watchdog investigators found that 60,000 payment cards belonging to Barclays Bank customers were subjected to known fraud as a result of the breach, with another 6,000 replaced by Monzo Bank following suspected fraudulent use. Ticketmaster failed to assess the risks of using a chatbot on its payments page, identify and implement appropriate security measures to negate the risks, and identify the source of suggested fraudulent activity in a timely manner, according to the ICO. Took Ticketmaster 9 weeks to identify the breach after the first reports of fraud, which came from Monzo Bank customers in February 2018.
Cool. What do you think about this?
Ticketmaster going to Ticketmaster?
Yeah.
The sad truth is they don't give a fuck because they're so big it doesn't make a difference to them. 1.25 million is probably what they make off 1 gig in fucking booking fees.
Yeah, I did some typing while you were talking there. Ticketing generated $1.8 billion in revenue for Ticketmaster in 2016.
Right, so
now, of course, revenue isn't profit, but it's still $1.8 billion of revenue.
Yep. So if we work on the premise, as I would say that most companies try and run on a margin of 20%. Some get higher than that, some get lower than that. That's kind of where profit margins fall in. From my understanding of most businesses, I know it's not linear. It's not the same in every, and the same like for retail as it would be for sales and tickets and stuff and events. But if you think about that, it's still a drop in the ocean. Yeah. In comparison. And so you said it was what $1 billion?
1.8 billion.
Right, so nearly 2 billion. So that would then, in my mind, mean what 400 million?
Yeah. And that's just from revenue from selling tickets. Of course, they have other ways of making money. For example, that figure doesn't include revenue from the reselling of tickets, which is estimated to be another 250 million. So it's just, I think it could be summarized really well by looking at what the top tweets in reply to this story were, which is great. So when do we get our payments? Joking aside, who exactly gets this money? Real question. And another one says, who receives this money from the fine? That's a really, really fair point. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ticketmaster are going to have to pay £1.25 million in fines for losing customers' bank details. The government will be really happy about that.
Absolutely, because as far as I know, it goes to the Information Commissioner's office, or is paid to the High Courts or whoever it will be. The ICO being a non-departmental public body, so it goes back into the government money and probably gets put into fucking House of Lords to subsidise their fucking Prosecco. Yeah, I had to get it in there.
So it's just not.
Don't judge me.
When a story like this is posted, I think the intention of posting something like this is so you can say to the public, yeah, justice is being served. This isn't justice.
At all. It's not even a fraction of what they should be paying, and it's not going to the people that have been affected.
Yeah.
It's arse backwards.
Yeah.
But that is the system we live in, brother. That is the system we live in.
You've got the story there again, right? How many UK people were affected by this?
1.5 million.
1.5 million. Right. So
I don't think it's a pound.
Yeah. If your data was stolen, I would go, you know what? Not just for people whose data was stolen, but let's say your card details were stolen on Ticketmaster and then it was used fraudulently. Ticketmaster now owes you £5,000. Like, that's justice. That's how justice works. Making things fair. Justice is about balancing the scales, making things fair again.
Yes.
This isn't fair. This isn't right. This hasn't done anything. But, but, moving on to the second Ticketmaster story.
Yes.
Now I have to jump in the defense of Ticketmaster because this whole Sky News running with this story, you know, they're journalists and they are creating headlines in order to create interest, to get clicks, so they can sell ads on their website and make money. Which is I'm kind of happy that we read a lot of stories from other people's websites, so you don't go and pay these people fucking money by seeing their ads, right? Because it's so easy to write a misleading story knowing that people are going to run with it. We've covered these time and time again where things have just been taken vastly out of context, but it's okay because everyone's going to run with the story, and then it will get shared here or there, and then someone else will write a story, and it's almost like the circle of everybody repeating the story is almost like the source. they're all, it's a circular source, if you like.
Chinese whispers,
exactly,
rather than it changing dramatically, but it just becomes that's on the grapevine and that's it. Doesn't matter where it came from.
Yeah. So many of you may have seen over the last week, everybody posting on Facebook that as of next year, Ticketmaster are going to require positive, positive is probably the wrong way of putting it. Negative would probably be better. Negative test results for COVID before you'll be granted access to Ticketmaster gigs, right? And of course, news outlets were going to run with a story like that because that's going to rile people up, isn't it? And they ran with that, and they just went with it, and it's just taking shit out of context. And no one's going to see the follow-up story because no one's interested in sharing a story that essentially corrects the thing that they were up in arms about last week.
Except us.
Well, we weren't up in arms about it last week, so...
Well, yeah, fair enough. But we are going to share it.
We're just going to be smug and talk about it, so...
Well, actually, one of the ones on it.
Yeah.
I'll read the story if you want.
Please do.
Ticketmaster has clarified a report that claimed the company was working on a plan to use smartphones to verify whether customers had been vaccinated or tested for coronavirus in preparation for a potential return to live events. Billboard's original report indicated that the process would involve fans using the Ticketmaster app in partnership with medical information firms and vaccine and testing distributors. After buying a ticket, customers would be required to either verify their vaccination status or prove they have tested negative for coronavirus within 72 hours prior to the event. Regional health authorities would determine the length of coverage for any test. Attendees would then authorise vaccine distribution providers to send over test results to companies like Clear Health Pass or IBM's Digital Health Pass, which would verify the fan status to Ticketmaster. Excuse me. Anyone who tests positive or fails to get screened won't be granted access to the event venue, Billboard reported. Earlier today, which was 3 days ago, the 12th, Ticketmaster issued the following statement connecting the original report from Billboard. It was widely misreported yesterday that Ticketmaster will be requiring vaccine status/test results for future events. This is not true. Ticketmaster does not have the power to set policies around safety/entry requirements, which would include vaccines and or testing protocols. That is up to the discretion of the event organiser. We are indeed exploring these options, but it is still only a potential concept, and Ticketmaster will not be able to require such parameters. It would always be up to the event organiser. Due to the ongoing pandemic, ticketing and promotion giant Live Nation Entertainment, which operates both Live Nation and Ticketmaster, last week reported a 95% drop in revenue in its third quarter compared to the same time last year. Wow. I think there's probably a lot more reactionary Americans than Brits because, I don't know if you've seen this, there was an American football game, I believe.
Right.
Maybe, might have been baseball. But anyway, some sort of stadiumed sports event where 1,000 fans were allowed in socially distanced, but they had to go through basically a decontamination chamber.
Right.
Right? You know, you get the full body
Sure.
scanners in the airport
Yeah.
and you stand like this. Imagine that, but it mists you and it must have been like some sort of antibacterial. And I saw, the reason I know this is I saw a screenshot, right? And it was like a news outlet tweeting about it, and then somebody retweeted it like, and you'll appreciate this, haha, that was actually a baptism, enjoy being part of the clergy, motherfuckers.
It's just sprayed with holy water. I find this so bizarre because, you know, I don't like this idea of attendees would then authorise vaccine distribution providers to send over test results to companies like Clear Health Pass and IBM's Digital Health Pass. The idea of IBM's Digital Health Pass, you have to look at that and be like, well, this sounds horrifying. And we're not trying to get political with this, but at the same time, I always have to be like, and this, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but like, if the Black Plague reappeared, you know, like I would like for people to not be wandering around. If they knew they had the Black Plague, I would rather they were being a little bit more considerate of my health rather than just going, well, fuck your health. I don't care about mine, and I don't care about yours. I'm not saying that this is a good idea. I'm saying that we live in this really fucking complicated time. I'm probably going to be one of those people. In fact, I'm definitely one of those people that is going to say that while people en masse are dying from COVID, it's nowhere near as bad as we initially anticipated it was going to be. You know what I mean? I think by this stage we thought millions upon millions upon millions, like a significant portion of the world's population was going to be wiped out, and that isn't the case. So it's nowhere near as bad as we might initially have thought it was going to be. But you wouldn't know that based on the way mainstream media deal with it, because I know people that are locked in their house, terrified to leave the house, because over the past almost year, 0.00001% of the population has died. Like, and that there's like a I feel bad for people that are that terrified with things, because actually, a bit of education and taking things like this a little bit more seriously, making sure that people around you are safe and that you're not putting people in unnecessary risky situations is probably better than like saying to old people, you're going to die unless you leave the house. Let me try that again. You're going to die if you leave the house. If people come and see you, you're going to die. Like, it's your birthday and you live alone and you've not seen any of your family in 6 months. Well, if your mum comes and visits you, she's going to die.
That's crazy. I'm kind of torn on this because I understand the whole point, and the lockdown and the isolation is to basically break the transfer chain, I believe it is, or the chain of transmission. Sorry. Yeah. But it's also really hard to just live your life and not see people. Yeah. It's really shit. And everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody has done one thing that's kind of broken the rules, because the rules are so fucking unclear, and sometimes they're just not realistic. I've been to my grand's house because I had to. My grand's
monster.
I know. She's in her 80s, right? She's got Parkinson's. She's a wee bit forgetful. And my papa passed away 2 years ago. No, sorry, last May. And she's in the house herself if my aunt's not in. So my aunties and my dad are often up and down to see her, make sure she's okay. She can get by. She's okay. She's in the present. She's generally fairly switched on. She always has been. But she's very forgetful in the short term. So the concern is you go in and she's just a bit scunnered and doesn't want to do something, and hasn't made herself tea or whatever, right? Yep. So I've been up a few times. I have no fucking problems admitting that. And I would have no problems arguing my case. If Dominic Cummings can drive 45 minutes in his car to take his wife out for her birthday and then claim it was so he could test his eyesight and not get in trouble for the DVSA or the DVLA or anybody else and still be allowed to hold his position in government, I can go to my grand's house when I can see perfectly fine and look after her.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not getting into it, but if that's the example that's been set, and then the argument was, well, nobody said you can't do this if you really need to. Like, cool, I really needed to. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
should we use this as our beautiful segue? So we've just been sat and talking about COVID.
We've been building up to this, haven't we?
Oh, I've been looking forward to this all week because I know this will have broken your heart.
Yeah, no. I think it might be one of the only times in my life where I can say I'm going to separate art and artist.
Yeah. So, you know who's going to be absolutely raging about this story? Absolutely raging about maybe needing to be registered with some sort of app in order to, not put other people at risk.
Big Steph Carpenter for the Deftones.
Deftones Steph Carpenter admits to being a flat earther and says that no vaccine has ever worked.
It's even worse than that. That's like...
I know.
It's like a pinprick compared to what's coming next.
Yeah, this is it's just astonishing. Mike, give me the story, Mike. Give me the story. It's just
right. So I'm going to read most of this article. It's on metal injection. Everybody and their granny has reported on this in the last couple of days, and unfortunately we kind of weren't ready just to jump on it due to real life, as you know. Again, for anybody listening, thanks very much for even tuning in the first place. We're trying to get back to doing every Sunday so that we've got a consistent upload schedule. There are always going to be blips in the radar, but we'll try not to let you down. And if we do, you should really give us verbal abuse on YouTube or SoundCloud comments or the Facebook. Bring it. Social media is fucking where we play, boys.
I like the rage. Come on, throw it at me. Give me as much. I like angry fans. Angry fans are what keeps me going. So the angrier you are, the happier I am. You get angry.
I'm going to start a website.
I'll deal with it.
Angry Fans, and everybody has to pay me to shout at me. £10 a month, and you can verbally abuse me once a week. Angry Fans. That's a fucking business idea. I've made it. Anyway, sorry. Deftones guitarist Stephen Carpenter. Stephen Carpenter, Steph, is known as the most visible marijuana advocate in the band, and clearly the dude has had plenty of sessions where he's gotten deep into conversations because Carpenter has some thoughts on things. During a recent interview, he admitted that he's a flat earther. He doesn't think the vaccine has ever worked, or any vaccine, has ever worked, and he puts doubts on how serious the coronavirus pandemic is. So before we read any further, I find it really interesting that you don't ever really see people who have a moderated view on where it stands. It's very polarising, the coronavirus, isn't it? It's either take it deadly fucking serious or you're a murderer, or it's a lot of shite. I'm going to go and drink somebody else's spit to prove that I'm okay. You know what I mean? It's really weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, the PRP transcribed portions of his interview with Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli podcast. Right away, you know you're in for a fucking roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right? Carpenter, who has been studying conspiracy theories since the early 90s, was asked if he was a flat earther. Studying conspiracy theories. You know what a theory is? Unproven. Or it would be fact.
Well, yeah, and in the case of the flat earth, disproven.
Yes, very accurately, including a crowdfunder where they spent, was it something like $45,000 on this special equipment that would measure the light, and it didn't quite, because that's not how Earth works.
Yeah, disproven accidentally by flat earthers.
Aye, that's it.
Before it was disproved, 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, and the quest to reaffirm their confirmation bias, they were knocked right off that fucking pedestal. Anyway, he responded, this being Steph, absolutely. If you think you live in a spinning flying space ball, you're in a cult. He elaborated later, the simplest terms from my perspective with flat earth is simply, I know we're not on a spinning flying space ball. Now what it actually is, and all that and to the depths it goes to, that's all still to be discovered, and people are working on those things. No, Steph, they aren't working on those things, because Earth is a sphere. We have discovered this quite dramatically. Do you think that when they put a poster up of the map of Earth that's how it works? Because no, that's elongated and stretched. You can go round the Earth. You have been round the Earth touring with your band. You've seen the horizon. You know that there's different climates. You've passed the equator many a time. How are you not getting this? What fucking planet do you think? Just... Right. I'm going to keep reading because it does get worse.
It gets a lot worse.
I know. So you know what? I'm going to power through before we give it any more.
Sure.
I'll try my best to get it through, right? And this is one of the articles I'm going to try and read in full.
Yeah, okay.
Just for context and why I'm saying this, Levi and I had a wee conversation earlier on about we're having a lot of fun reading these stories and getting our opinions in, but I think we're focusing a wee bit too much on reading the story.
Yeah.
And I think Levi agrees as well. We had
Absolutely,
this conversation. It was like, we're better bringing our own content to it. But some of these things are just fucking golden, because what you're actually getting here is just the most tremendous content to go off the hinge, if you want, with it. So anyway, Steph pushed back on the idea that any human was ever in space, saying the only thing that was ever launched into space was humanity's imagination. False. Incredibly false. Carpenter notes that when people try to debate him on the flat earth stuff, they have to find common ground first. No, we don't. When you tell people that the earth is flat, when you tell people I am wrong, here is my wrong opinion, I want to ask and answer all the questions that you want to ask and answer as well. They've been answered. But I want to first acknowledge that you don't live on the spinning space ball.
I want you to acknowledge that I'm right before you talk to me.
That's it. You need to accept that I'm right and you're wrong, and that every other planet's round except the Earth. You know, the other ones that we can visibly witness by looking at them. Okay, because once you know you can acknowledge that, as you say, once you accept my point of view and ignore your own, then you get to the place where people like, okay, now we're legitimately asking the same question. No, you're not. People are still discovering lots of things in regards to that. if you mean the scientific process is that you reevaluate everything and you continually test until you get the closest you can get to the truth, then yes, that's how facts work. You telling people you must accept Earth is flat before we talk about it is not scientific process. Carpenter pointed to a video titled Flat Earth, the ultimate litmus test. No, the ultimate Dunning-Kruger test that convinced him of the highly questionable theory. When I first saw this, my initial response was laughter, because that's what I've always done. And then I was like, you know what? He's actually showing me something now, and I'm still laughing about something that I don't know about. At least I ought to just watch this, see what he's talking about, because he's still telling me a year later the Earth is flat, and I'm still going, what are you talking about? So, do you believe the Earth is flat, or do you just believe that nothing is true?
Yeah.
Just before we go any further, one of the main cruxes that pisses me off about flat Earth is often the argument against why would the Earth be flat and you'd be told otherwise. Well, if they're lying to you about this, what else could they be lying to you about? Aliens? Pyramids? The Illuminati? Anunnaki aliens? The Queen? David Icke? Like, shut up.
Yeah, well, we definitely talked about this at length on the show before, and I've done it in Rage Time videos. My favourite is the A440 versus A432. It's a Nazi conspiracy. No, we can look back and see that this is absolutely not the case. And prior to that being the standardising and going to 440, everyone wasn't at A432 anyway. We actually had a fucking an ever increasing pitch race where we were tuning higher and higher because instrument manufacturers were of the opinion that the higher your instrument was tuned, the brighter the instrument sounded. So new instruments sounded brighter and it was more appealing to people. But if you go back to like the Baroque era or the classical era and look at like tuning forks for different orchestras, they all had different tuning forks that were tuned to different pitches because that was just the way they tuned, and it just made it a fucking nightmare for members of different orchestras to go between fucking orchestras. That's the reason we standardized, and it happened after the war.
I absolutely fucking love that you just flexed your music historian muscle there, just like, nah, fuck up. It was great.
Because it all comes down to this idea, people like that, people like this, right? They want to call people sheep. They want to go down this route of like, oh, you just believe everything you're told, but you don't realise you've gone the complete fucking opposite way. You've gone this route where someone like Alex Jones can tell you absolutely anything he wants, and as long as at the end of his run he goes with, but you're not stupid, right? You can see that they're lying to you. Everyone else might be fooled, but you're not going to be fooled, are you? That's enough for these people's egos to go, yeah, you know what? Actually, I am pretty smart. Yeah, I'm not going to fall for this shit. And you end up just falling for more ridiculous shit for someone that's going to end up selling you fucking weight loss pills or whatever. I mean, Steph Carpenter's not been on weight loss pills, but carry on, Mike.
Sorry, the big man's on that smoke weed and eat your munchies fucking hype. So I'm going to put my right hand up here and just say, in the interest of not being biased and or recognising biases and being fair, I was going to say it's really stupid how dismissive these things are, but I have just dismissed everything that Steph said. So the rest of my reading, I think I'm going to try and put points forward more objectively, as in how I would ask him to further that thought train, right? Sure. Because I think, and what you've just said there is it's definitely raised a point to me. You're right, Alex Jones's thing of that, but you're not stupid, right? It's so horribly dismissive, and it feeds into the Dunning-Kruger. I'm smarter than I know better than other people because I've been told, and because I've discovered it myself. I've done my research. No, you've watched 2 YouTube videos. That's not research. Yeah. That's entertainment.
Sure.
I can't say I've done my research because I watched the news. The news doesn't have the full story, and every single news channel has its own bias. Yep. It's not the source. Anyway, so I'm getting really deep today, aren't I? Carpenter noted he ended up watching the video twice and was convinced of the message. When you first learn about Flat Earth, at least when I did that, I learned about all that no dinosaur shit, no nuke stuff and everything. I mean, literally you just start going down the path. Oh my god, there's so much fake shit, and it just keeps happening, he continued. Once I realised that there was no such place as space, and we're in this, created environment, if you will, it changed everything. I immediately lost all the space fear. Like, I have no fears of us ever being struck by some rogue asteroid, meteor, comet, rogue planet, no solar flares, none of this space fucking devil's going to get you.
That's Steph, really interesting to me, because it suggests that was a genuine fear that he had, right? I acknowledge the reality that's the reality that we live in, but it's not something that I fucking fear, because the chances of it happening are astronomically small.
But I think that it presents a bigger concern. What I would say, or the way I would like to question this too, Steph, where you're listening, is what devil where have you got the belief that there is a higher power in tow, or sorry, going against God that's here, or going against the human race or Earth that has vexed us and is coming for us? And where did this fear come from? Are you sure that's not the weed paranoia? Because when you're talking about flat Earth and how the no dinosaur shit, no nuke stuff, well, you didn't learn about flat Earth. It's a theory. And I'm not saying that to discredit you, but what I'm saying is that it has no scientific proof. It's been, as far as we can tell through scientific standards, disproven. We've used scientific method to evaluate this theory, and it didn't stand up to it.
Also, more importantly, just our general measurements for things like travel or the construction of large scale, like bridges, for example, we have to take into account things like curvature of the Earth. If you were a flat earther, I'll tell you what, introduce me to somebody that builds bridges for a living that's a flat earther. Then maybe I'll take you a little bit more seriously. But when all you do is sit around and smoke weed and then talk about, oh, well, the government's lying to us, like, I can't take that seriously because you're not a fucking scientist. You don't know what you're talking about. Sure, I get it. You like the idea of these, like, we're smarter than everybody else thinks. And as thought exercises, these are really interesting thought exercises. And for creative purposes, the idea that he's right about all this would make for wonderful, wonderful works of fiction, would make for wonderful stories that you could tell, right? I get that. But you need to bridge that gap. Well, you shouldn't bridge that gap, I should say, between wonderful works of fiction and the fucking reality that you live in.
Yep. I think we should... I know a civil engineer, I could ask their opinion on it. I don't think they work in bridges, but I could certainly ask them and say, so here's where I stand on it. Could you give me some advice on what you have to do? Yeah. Because it probably comes into play in tall structures as well, because they're going to have to worry about how it stands, making sure that it's balanced properly and that it's not swaying to one side or the other, and the curvature of the Earth having an effect on that. Yeah. So, but the bit that gets me, all this no dinosaur shit, no nuke stuff. So no dinosaur shit, right? Where's your proof there's no dinosaurs? Because again, there are skeletons. There are.
But they were all just manufactured by Big Dino. Come on.
You're right.
That's all the proof he needs.
No, you know what it is, right? There's no proof because all the dinosaurs became petrol.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
It's crude oil, that's it, right? But no nuke stuff. What are you talking about? In the last 100 years, there have been literal nuke drops. There's a public knowledge American nuke fucking program. Was it Easter Island?
You've got it all wrong, mate. Japan doesn't exist. Fake.
I watched
Fake news.
I watched a film years ago, right? And it's a Japanese film called The Whole World Sinks Except Japan. And it's about the whole world sinking except Japan. Me and you should watch it one night. It's so fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
So bizarre. But if Japan doesn't exist, we're all fucked. That's what I need to say to that, because that film proved to me that the whole world's going to sink. That was my evidence. And if we don't get to Japan, we're gubbed, right? The bit that gets me, I know I said I was going to read it all and crack on.
I know. But it's too funny.
Stuff.
It's just too funny.
No nuke stuff. Like, you've went from having your tinfoil hat on to just ignoring reality. Nukes are real. They are proven to be real. They've been used in our lifetime. There is a nuke arms race, like fucking mutually assured destruction. Yeah. If anything happens to Russia, we're all dead because Viaruka exists, the dead man's hand. If you've never heard of this, I've talked about it a few times. Go look this shit up. This is terrifying.
And if you're not willing to accept that nuclear weapons exist, we know nuclear power exists. You know, we know this to be the case. You can look into
Chernobyl wasn't real.
Yeah, you can understand why these things work, right? And
Pripyat is a simulation.
If you look at this stuff, the nuclear reactions and how we use that to generate power, why would it be a jump for you to go, well, it would be impossible for someone to harness that level of power into something that we could, detonate over a city. Like, come on.
Nuclear
none
fusion.
Of this is out of the realm of possibility.
More like nuclear confusion. Fucking stupid.
Pun of the century. Sorry, carry on.
That's all right, man. No, but it's just... I feel like I'm digging down the rabbit hole with him. But every time I get to the next level, I'm like, this is even more mental. But no one like wow, I need to know more. So it's not like fucking Starship Troopers. Yeah. Would you like to know more? It's like, no, I want to know less. I don't want to believe these people think this way. So Steph was then asked if reality as we know it is part of a simulation, i.e., is this the Matrix? Now, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there that I like to give some headroom, because I like the idea that there has some legitimacy in them and they're funny. For example, the Large Hadron Collider, where was it like a raccoon get in or something, and that time actually ended in 2012 and we're now on an alternative line of time. Have you not heard this theory?
I've not.
No? So something happened.
I'll have to ask Steph
Hadron
Carpenter
Collider.
about it.
He fucking knows a lot. He was there.
He was the raccoon.
So apparently like that, there was like something in the Large Hadron Collider, and people believe that this has caused a rip in the space-time continuum, and for multiple universes and timelines to come about, and we went off track, and that's why so much has happened.
Yeah, it's
in
worth
the last 8 years. It's weird,
but it's worth considering that the people that are considering that aren't scientists, right? They're people that enjoy science fiction, because I can't ever recall scientists talking about the space-time continuum. That's something you got from a film.
Well, that's it. I mean, well, no, because there's the theories of general and special relativity.
Sure.
They're about space-time. But I know what you mean. Like, people don't use that as a common term.
Sure. It's not a literal thing that you can rip.
Yes, it's been standardised. Because it comes from the fabric of time.
Yeah.
That saying, which is a saying. Right? Let me read this fucking statement. If you want to call it a simulation, that's fine. Simulation is still implying that you're not on the flying, spinning space ball. This is some other shit, right? And I'm just saying that, here in the Matrix where we are, there's a reality. And there's the Matrix, right? Flat Earth is outside of the Matrix. When you're in the Matrix, you have all kinds of versions of what you think it is, but it's not. It's a flat, motionless plane of existence. And I don't know, you can debate it forever, but it will never change the fact that that's what it is. You know what I mean? And that's why I was saying, initially I said, it's really hard. After you know that, because you are outside of the Matrix. In the Matrix, the majority is in the Matrix still. So it's hard to actually talk about people who want to have serious conversations about subjects that they think they know about, but they don't, because they're not in actual reality. Have you ever seen those photos that people made to simulate what a stroke's like? And everything in the room's really familiar, but you can't quite make out what it is? That's Steph Carpenter's point.
Yeah, that's Steph Carpenter talking.
Mm-hmm. So that 3 paragraphs in my mind was Steph Carpenter trying to say, I don't believe that things are real. Flat Earth exists outside the Matrix, but the Matrix exists as well. So things are inside the Matrix, but it's not as much in the Matrix as you would think. It's actually outside. So once you leave the Matrix, that's when you realise that Earth's flat. But Flat Earth is still inside the Matrix. Make your mind up.
Yep.
Right. Let's just continue, because there's still quite a lot of funniness to laugh at him. Yeah. So Carpenter boiled down his life philosophy at one point. Here are 3 things you need to keep your clarity through all of this mental insanity. This will keep you straight through all of it if you just remember these 3 things. I don't think you're remembering these things, Steph, if they will keep you straight. And those 3 things are: 1, projection; 2, incrementalism; and 3, boogeyman everything. The boogeyman is constantly being projected, and he's incrementally getting worse all the time. Boogeyman, boogeyman, boogeyman. He later added, I literally filter through the fact that I know I'm not on a flying, spinning space ball, and the boogeyman is always trying to get me. Steph, I think you have had some sort of cannabis psychosis, bro.
No.
Really, no, like, without being daft, I am concerned for your mental health if you believe that there is a boogeyman out to get you, and that's real, but the Earth is flat. You're venturing off the side of science.
So, okay, yeah, he does say, and the boogeyman is always. So my initial interpretation of that is that he's essentially saying, because he was talking about like the flying space ball, and like once I put that out of my mind, suddenly I'm not worried about being hit by an asteroid, etc. It's like we're told all these things so that they can present a boogeyman to us, but he does actually say, I'm not on a flying space ball, and the boogeyman is always trying to get me. That might be. I feel that that's just a misquote. It should be isn't always trying to get me. That would make a little bit more sense then. It's like he's freeing himself of this fear of the boogeyman. Is how I'm interpreting him here.
I think what he's saying is you need to be aware of these 3 things, and that's how they will get you to believe these things that they're telling you, that the boogeyman is actually that constant fear that you're going to be blown up by an asteroid, or that you're on out of oxygen, or that the ozone layer is being destroyed. I mean, all these things that have been scientifically proven, those facts,
Yeah. I actually love that sentence, though, that the 3 points, I'd love this on a t-shirt, right? The 3 things to be considered are: 1, projection; 2, incrementalism, and 3, boogeyman everything. They're just complete non sequiturs. None of that makes sense. It's like,
It's not meant to.
1, today is Monday. 2, cheeseburgers. 3, 7. What is he talking about? Usually when you make 3 points like that, it should lead you somewhere. This doesn't mean anything, you absolute fucking maniac.
I think he's tried to make it mean something.
Yeah.
But all he's really done is throw out some word salad.
Let's get on to the worst part.
I'm just going to read right through, right, and then we'll just go to town on it, because I know I'm dragging us on. The subject of coronavirus came up and the idea of a vaccine, to which Carpenter replied, "There's never been one single vaccine that's ever worked, ever. All poisons. You can never get it out of your body. Your body has no means to expel it. It's stuck in you forever, and you just suffer with whatever it becomes." A successful polio vaccine was brought up, and Carpenter pushed back. "We never eradicated it. It was, we've never actually learned. I'm grateful for COVID for teaching me the actual germ theory, and that it is the virus is something the body creates. You are not capable of catching a virus from somebody. You develop viruses because you have some type of poison or toxin within you, and that's your poisoned and toxin cells secreting the virus to clean them from the body." Carpenter thinks masks don't work because of the legal wording on the boxes of the masks that they don't protect from the virus. As for the virus itself, he expressed doubts on how widespread it is, saying, "Wouldn't the homeless population be all you need to know about the virus? I mean, if there was this incredibly deadly virus going around for this whole entire year, we would have lost everybody on the street by now. I'm sure of it. But in fact, we didn't lose them. Their numbers got stronger." The Deftones guitarist did offer a disclaimer to any fans who happen to lose a loved one, and that's no disrespect to those who've fallen ill or even those who've died from whatever they may have died from. Obviously none of that is disregarded, but I do not connect with what this is, you know? This is just some mental trickery. At one point in the interview, Stephen says, "It's far easier to fool people than to ever let them know they've been fooled. Nobody wants to be the fool."
And that's why he accepts all this stuff, because he doesn't want to be the fool.
I'm going to do one better, right? It's far easier to fool people than to ever let them know they've been fooled. If you're fooling somebody, why would you let them know you've been fooled? You either are fooling them or you're not. That's a logical fallacy.
Don't talk logic to this man.
I know.
That's it. There's just so
Fuck
many
me,
things.
Steph.
So many things you can. So he says, I think he's saying that if you take a vaccine, that's you. You can't get rid of it. Once that's put inside of you, your body has no means to expel it. But then he also goes on to say that viruses are things that your own cells create, and it does that because you have a poison and toxin in you. And I quote, "and that's your poison and toxin cells secreting the virus to clean them from your body." So hang on a minute. You can clean things from your body, but you can't clean vaccines from your body. What are you talking about, you absolute fucking maniac? You know, the issue...
On top of that...
Go on.
Just to add to your point, vaccines are literally the virus in a controlled measure, so your body can build up the antibodies needed for it.
Yeah.
So, if it can't secrete the viruses, it can't secrete the vaccine, because they are of the same, except one is no controlled dose, and the other's a controlled dose. Am I right?
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I don't know germ theory. I'm certainly not a scientist.
Sure.
Just as much as I'm not a fucking lawyer. But I think I would take the word of immunologists and epidemiologists and GPs and scientists and people who study this shit over a guy that smokes a lot of weed and writes some cool riffs.
Yeah. And
especially when he says, "I know germ theory," and then says something that's absolutely nothing to do with germ theory.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been taught the actual germ theory from what? Fucking YouTube videos. The reason this bugs me so fucking much is actually when you look at follow-up stories on this and people talking about it on social media, he just gets a free pass for it. He's just getting a free pass from all these fans saying, well, ultimately, you know, as long as he keeps writing cool riffs, like he can have he's entitled to whatever opinions he wants. And I do agree with that. Of course, he is absolutely entitled to whatever opinions he wants. And I think in the grand scheme of things, he's relatively harmless. He seems like just a harmless, funny guy that would be interesting to have a conversation with. He's not influencing policy in government, etc., etc. So, in that sense, cool. But actually, it's the screaming hypocrisy that, not from him, but from people that read this story. It's okay that he says this stuff because we like the music he makes, but it's not okay a couple of weeks ago when we interpret Five Finger Death Punch as having an anti-mask message. He's outright had an anti-mask message in this. He is outright anti-mask. He is outright saying that COVID isn't a thing, right? This is a much, much worse message than Five Finger Death Punch, who came out and tried to clear it up and said, you are misunderstanding what it is we're doing. But that was enough for Five Finger Death Punch to be gone. It's never about what people fucking say. It's about people's own personal fucking biases. I'm not saying that the Deftones need to be cancelled. I'm saying that... I'm saying fucking wake up, sheeple. Wake up, sheeple. You're all fucking idiots because you cannot have a clear, consistent thought in your mind. You need more fucking consistency when you think about these things, because if Five Finger Death Punch is bad, this is fucking terrible. And if Five Finger Death Punch isn't bad, likewise, this isn't bad either. Just have some fucking consistency. I'm glad that we read this. It was very fucking entertaining. What do you think?
I think, very much along the same lines of you, I don't think I could draw a direct comparison between the Five Finger Death Punch situation and this one, because the methods of promoting the message were different. Sure. I think the problem was that Five Finger Death Punch, being one of the somehow biggest metal bands in the commercial scene,
sure,
let's be honest, they play fucking sold out like fucking stadiums and stuff. Sure. Obviously they have a big influence. People did misunderstand their video, and obviously they clarified, but the knee-jerk reaction was because it was going out to so many people, broadcast obviously on radio channels and being
sure,
pushed by the radio stations as well as the labels, etc.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just Steph Carpenter talking off the cuff with a guy on clearly a conspiracy theory podcast. It's called fucking Take the Tinfoil Hat Off or something, or Under the Foil Hat. You know what I mean? But you're right, it's a much, much worse message. Much worse message in the sense that it's potentially damaging to other people. It's putting other people at risk.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in that vaccines do anything, you don't believe that masks do anything, right, fair enough. But don't you fucking dare walk around about me not wearing one. Don't go out and, you see stories every single day of people who publicly claimed that coronavirus doesn't exist have died from it.
Yeah.
And the argument that Steph made of, what about the homeless population? Well, what about them? What if somebody didn't have coronavirus and didn't spread it to them? Oh, but their numbers are growing stronger. That's because people are dying and that workplaces have been closed down because of emergency measures taken across the world to stop people catching it. People then don't have an income. They fall through the net of whatever's meant to be social security. Yeah. And they end up homeless. They can't pay their rent because...
Yeah. Because this has all been orchestrated by governments, of course. This is all orchestrated by governments. Because the one thing that we all know is the thing that governments want more than anything else in the world is for their population to have no job security whatsoever, so they can't pay taxes. What governments want more than anything else in the world is to enact measures on the population that are so detrimental to the population's mental well-being and to their way of life, their quality of life, not being able to pay their mortgages because they're not allowed to work, etc., etc. The government want people like that because that's really fucking handy for them when election time rolls around. Don't be fucking ridiculous. This entire, the fucking homeless population. Who knows how many of the homeless population have died? I would imagine a significant portion, just like a significant portion of the homeless die from stupid things like fucking pneumonia as well.
They shouldn't be homeless in the first place. There is more than adequate fucking housing.
All right, now we're taking a completely different story.
No, but I'm just being serious here. If we're going to touch on that, right? Like, the main cause of homelessness is a lack of support. People not being seen as human when they have problems with drugs or addiction or whatever. And just being left to it. Some people want to be homeless. I know that's an actual thing because some people like to just
be
live
off the
as
grid.
They are, and that's the way they want to be. That's fine. If you don't want to fall into conventional housing, cool. You want to live off the grid and make yourself like a fucking cabin, or even sleep in the street if you stay somewhere that doesn't have a lot of rain or bad weather. Fill your boots, that's up to you. But to claim that like homelessness hasn't been affected by COVID is just so myopic, so tunnel vision on it doesn't exist and I've not looked into it, so therefore it doesn't happen. What?
Yeah.
And
well, you know what it really needs? It really needs homeless people to be making more YouTube videos about the plight that they're going through, because then Steph Carpenter would know a little bit more about it.
You're right, especially if they title things like "The government's lying to us." Yeah. I lay on the ground and I didn't feel any curvature.
Yeah, I think we're going to end that one there.
Aye. Shut up, Steph. There's how it fucking works, right? Shut up.
Yeah, I'm not saying that people
Good
should stop
God.
listening to his music. If you dig his music, then fantastic. Fan-fucking-tastic. Try and have a little bit more fucking consistency, though, because when other people... There are so many people in this music industry that could say these exact same things, and you would jump on it as a reason to get them out of this fucking industry, you know? I'm not saying that Steph needs to get out of this industry. Not at all. That would be bad, because I know a lot of people absolutely love his music. Yeah, try and be better, people. Just do your best, be better. All right, Steph, good lad, right?
The other thing that disappoints me that we need to consider, right? Steph Carpenter's got the most consistently cool signature guitars on earth. He has. If you look at the
Lies.
pictures, no, it's not lies. There's photos of him from whatever magazine he was in, and it's just like a photo shoot, and he must have like the majority of his guitars out, and they're all piled up on top of him. Look through every one of them, and I'm like, there's maybe 2 of them that I wouldn't be that bored about playing about, but everything else is fucking cool. He is stylish in terms of signatures. They might all basically be 6, 7, and 8 string fucking super strats with like a humbucker in the middle and the bridge and nothing in the neck, or a single coil in the neck or whatever, but they're cool as fuck. Steph has a bit of a I'd say he's as much a pioneer when it comes to extended range as quite a lot of other people in terms of like, dropping low tunings and not using it just for the sake of low fucking F sharps.
I like that. Because I can use that. Because do you know who else is a pioneer of 7 and 8 string guitar stuff?
Even more of a pioneer than people realise,
Yep.
as you and I know. That's to come.
This show has been brought to you by our friends over at OMSBY Guitars. If you have the time, please do head on over and follow them on Instagram to see more of their incredible work. I'm actually spending more and more of my time each day scrolling through Instagram and really getting the appeal of looking at incredible instruments like this. It just makes you want to order something really, really special. Of course, you can always contact them if you want to order a custom shop guitar, or head on over to their website, check out the pre-order section, and get involved on the upcoming Goliath Run 14. Again, one of these guitars can be pre-ordered for as little as $1,200 US. That's an incredible price. That's a lot of guitar for very little money. So if you want something like this in your life, head on over to OMSBYguitars.com and get involved. Thanks so much to OMSBY, and we'll see you for another show soon. Laters. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another Guitar Souls episode comes to an end, and I feel like a liar because we talked a lot longer than I planned to, so there's not a chance you're listening to this on Sunday because there's not enough time in the day for me to edit, render, and upload this before I need to go out, unfortunately. So whenever you are listening to this, I would imagine Monday. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope you have enjoyed this as much as we clearly enjoyed this, because we wouldn't shut up talking about stuff. It was a lot of fun. You enjoy yourself, Mike?
I think I did the majority of the talking, and I'm sorry. I don't know how I was so enthused to batter through things, because obviously the context that other people don't see is you and I have a wee chat before we came on, and you were basically like, we don't have anything in the group. Like, I thought we had loads. And I was like, what do you mean we don't have anything? And then I clicked, I was like, 3 stories. Oh. And then you were just like, oh, there's all this stuff. So from it going from we don't have a lot to talk about to 2 hours of recording, we've done all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right. So that'll be a happy belated birthday to you, Peter. Potentially. Hope you had a good day, mate, and you get spoiled.
Yeah.
Big love to you.
As always, please do check out the links in the description. You can head on over to the Guitar Souls Teespring store, pick up a little bit of merchandise. We had some requests to put up jumpers, so maybe I could do that. We could probably do a Christmas jumper, because we might sell one of those. So.
That'd be good.
Guitar Souls Christmas jumpers. Here we come. I got
bobble bags.
She won't see this. I got sent a Christmas present for Melissa today. It's I got a Christmas jumper for her yesterday even that says it's a Christmas jumper with unicorns on it, and it says "Slay the patriarchy." And I was like, I think she'll like that.
That's tremendous, man. That's so good.
She'll definitely enjoy that. So yeah, all the usual stuff, like, share,
Beautiful.
Comment, subscribe, it all helps. And tell your friends, tell your enemies, all that good stuff. Any closing messages, Mike?
We both love you all. You make it worthwhile when we get messages through. I get them all the time. And anybody that messages me and opens it with, sorry for the random message, I just have to reply like, it's fine. It's not a random message. Message me anytime. Yeah. And on that as well, I don't often check my message requests folder because it doesn't really prompt me on my phone. Messenger's quite shit. So with that in mind, if you send me a message and I don't get to it within a couple of days or whatever, please don't be offended. I am terrible at replying. Otherwise, I'd be more than happy to chat away with you and ask you and help you out with stuff. I've had a few people ask questions about OMSBYs and second-hand pricings and just general questions. And then obviously we get it on YouTube as well. People bringing up things that we've said, like last week where you guys got the OMSBYs, obviously after you've said you shouldn't buy something without playing it. It's cool. I like those things, challenges. I love engaging with that. I've been quite bad at going through the YouTube comments recently just because I've had a lot on personally. I've not gave anyone an update on my mental health. Shit's been bad and good, but we're getting there. Hopefully everybody else is doing okay. Again, with a couple of people reaching out asking me and letting me know that they are going through things or they have went through things, and it's nice to know that people are there's a shared experience there, and I think everybody will have a shared consciousness come the end of it, potentially, to fall down the Steph Carpenter
all right,
fucking route.
Steph.
I know. But yeah, thanks very much. Monster, if you want to sponsor us, I drink 2 of your cans every single day. I'd be more than happy to take that in payment.
Just wait for people to point out that those are the reasons that you're constantly struggling.
Probably, aye.
You're powered by Monster.
2 cans a day and at least a coffee, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm not caffeine sensitive, really. I'm always fucking gubbed regardless.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool.
Thanks very much. Like,
Good.
share, subscribe. If you want to support us, we've got the merch down there. As Levi said, we'll maybe try and get a wee Christmas jumper up or something. Absolutely no imperative for you to do anything. But we appreciate everything. And
Cool.
it makes it worthwhile to come on and talk shit because I love Levi. He's one of my best friends.
Aww.
And we don't get a chance to see each other very often. So this is a really nice wee way for us to see each other at least once a week.
Yes.
In fact, don't see him that often. That every time I've tried to drop off his birthday present, I've not got him. It's still in my car.
Well, I can literally walk over to your house right now because I've got to walk my dogs. So how's that?
My car's not here. Nancy's driving it.
Good
so
point, yeah, okay. Mike, until next time.
Stay hydrated.
With Monster, apparently, you absolute fucking cretin.
No, drink water too.